All right, so this is going to be our first engagement session, and it's called our kickoff for our summer session of HSC 110, or Intro to Human Services. I'm going to be going through some slides I've made up here, and those slides should be showing on your, let's see if I got those shared on your screen now. And on these, I have pulled together the questions that you and your classmates have posed for this session. And I'm going to just be walking through those questions. If those of you who are joining live, so Jessica and Treva, if you have questions that come up as I'm asking or answering these, you can use the features down below. There's that speech bubble button that you can type into. There's also should be a picture that looks like a head and a body with their arm up in the air. And that's like raising your hand in class. And you can click on that, and that will pause and check in with you on your questions. So I'm going to head on and start answering some of these. I want to first tell everyone who's also going to be watching this from a recording that this was a great number of questions. I've done this type of exercise before with this class, and I've never gotten this many great questions posed. So I am real excited of where we're going to be heading with this class and where you all are already as thinkers and persons that are going to be ready to push yourselves to be asking good questions. I think that's critical for being able to be doing well with learning in college. So excited for that. First questions were posed that what can we expect from this class? I think a good place, the simple place to always think about any college class is what's on the syllabus. And I'm going to pull up our syllabus and point that out and then go a bit deeper on that. So with our syllabus, there are learning objectives. Any class, that's what you're going to tackle in a class. We're going to learn those things that are listed there. So when you're leaving this class, that's what I want you to be able to know. There's always a course description that gives you in a couple sentences what it is. Another great place on a syllabus is you can go all the way to the end and you can see what the modules might be named and possibly the types of assignments we're going to be doing. So that's another way to get sort of a flavor of a class. This one you can see you're going to be doing some modules with names like skills and history and self-awareness. So that might give you some clues, along with some projects that are called Different Than Me, or we're going to do some that might seem a little bit ominous or scary, called an APA paper, but that is really a lot simpler than it looks. What I like to think about, or if you were coming into my office and saying, you know, what if I sign up for this class, what can I expect? I would be telling you that you're going to expect to learn about the basics of human services. You're going to be able to get a starting spot for exploring what this might look like for you as a career. You're going to get some assignments to be able to explore what you're interested in. And you might be able to think even bigger than what you've done before when thinking about human services. So those are, in a nutshell, what I would say you're going to be able to expect. Why I got in this field is the second question. And I kind of had to think about that. I started doing things related to human services decades ago. And I sometimes will think that it kind of found me, that I was in a number of different settings that I got to work with people. I did some things starting out with working with youth. I did some things working in communities with financial assistance. I did some things working with persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And each time it gave me a chance to kind of explore things that I got excited about, or I got passionate about doing more, doing better. So it kept growing and broadening till it became really kind of a career path. If on the third question here, what advice can I give about life after college? I think something that is important or valuable to think about is that the learning's not going to stop. We're going to get you started here in these college courses. And then you're going to be able to go out in the field and apply some of that learning, but keep on learning because the field's going to constantly be growing and expanding. I also like to push people to think about continuing your higher education also. So to think of it not stopping possibly after Forsyth Tech. Some of our graduates will go on to 4-year degrees. Some will go on for their master's. You could certainly go on even for a doctorate, focusing on the variety of things in human services. So my advice would be not to think of your career and your learning ever stopping, but always growing. Fourth question posed by the student was, does Forsyth Tech offer internships? It sure does. We include as part of the associate's degree in human services requires that you'll do field work. And you'll do those under names called clinicals or work-based learning. And we'll share more as we go on in this course and a course called Orientation Lab of what those two different options mean. But absolutely, if you're working on the associates in human services, you will be out practicing some things in the field by your last semesters. Going on to some more questions. A great one is, how can I be successful in this class? I think things that will keep you successful is using that syllabus. At the end, there is a schedule. So using that as your tool to keep yourself organized. I think also to be successful is that you are using the tools, the learning tools such as the study sheets, as ways not to just get through the assignment, but to pose what's interesting to you. Explore things that are interesting to you as part of the assignments. The study sheets are built into each of the modules. Those are things that you'll be able to use then in the exams. There will be some of those study sheets you'll be able to use also in the projects. So use those intertwined with each of the assignments. Keep track of them so you're not getting any blanks in your tasks. And if anything's not making sense, reach out and ask the questions. There's the next question about time management techniques for this class, and a couple students asked about this. I'm going to pull up just a visual to help us thinking about this. When you think about this class in the summer, you're going to want to think about Tuesdays and Thursdays. There will be due dates on each of those days. I'd keep a calendar so you have a list of those. You could use a calendar like this. You can use the schedule at the back of your syllabus. You can use another calendar or planner, but keep your Tuesdays and Thursdays regular reminders of each things that are due. And then look at the days before that of when you're going to work on the assignments. So if something's due on Tuesday, start working on it on days before that. So what's due next Tuesday on the 9th? What will you be doing before that? And give yourself enough time to complete it. Each task that's due on a Tuesday and each one that's expects that you'll be having about 4 or 5 hours of work to get that done. Same for the Thursday, 4 or 5 hours to get that done. If you get through it in less time, use that extra time to work ahead. You'll want to plan enough time, not too little of time. So 4 to 5 hours for each task, Tuesdays and Thursdays. 4 to 5 hours to get things done for the Tuesday deadlines, 4 to 5 hours to get the tasks done for the Thursday deadlines. All right, coming back to our slides and the next questions. How can I apply this class to the workforce world? There's going to be a lot of things that we're going to look at as an introduction level in this class. Those will be things that you'll build on then for your next level of human services class. But there'll also be things in this class that you'll be able to take right into the workforce. They'll be able to look at how you can explore areas that you're interested in. You may have some things that you'll look at that will push you about how we think about diversity. How do you think about your self-awareness? Other things will be, how do you look at your writing skills? You'll learn skills, and the way that you're going to take them to the workforce is how you start becoming aware of your strengths and aware of your areas that you want to keep pushing yourself. And if you make yourself your own best expert with that, then you'll be the one in charge of asking the questions, posing the ways that you'll keep getting stronger on these areas. The skills will then launch you into the workforce. Let's look at the next slide with some questions. These are excellent, excellent questions. What are some beneficial entry-level jobs for human services? We have a number of focus areas that happen in human services. Some of the entry-level jobs may be at our shelters for persons who are homeless. An entry-level job may be working as a case manager at a shelter, maybe working as a shelter monitor, or a support person at those type of settings. We also have entry-level jobs working at places for persons who have substance abuse needs. Those jobs may be, if it's a residential program, may be as a residential support. They may be as a co-facilitator with groups. They may be as an assistant to a therapist. Settings also that human services entry-level jobs for human services professionals may also be settings that work with persons with intellectual or developmental disabilities. In those settings, you may work as a day program assistant. You may work as a job coach. You might work as a residential staff. Sometimes the terms might be habilitation technician. We also see entry-level roles in human services in income maintenance. So some of the government jobs may be working as with the SNAP program or Medicaid programs for carrying a caseload of helping persons determine if they're eligible for those benefits and then helping persons get those benefits. Many persons are interested in working with youth. Some of our entry-level jobs may be working in some of our after-school programs that are a mix of helping students become successful. Though you might be combining tutoring along with teaching life skills, along with teaching youth how to cope with challenges, how to cope with making smart decisions. So those are just some of the entry-level jobs. You'll have some opportunities in some of our later assignments to dig in on some of those and explore them a bit deeper. Second question I love, in these times that we're living, do you think human services workers are vital? I can't underscore more. We're in such a crazy time now. It's a time that we haven't seen before. To imagine that we're in a global pandemic. We're seeing civil rights be elevated to a level that we haven't seen since the 60s. We're seeing unemployment concerns raised to levels that we haven't seen since the Great Depression, and then we throw in the pandemic. Human life is at really some challenging questions right now, and human services workers are going to be at the front lines and are at the front lines with that. Was just in conversation with a good friend of mine who happens to be working in the food banks in Minneapolis right now, and I was just kind of exploring whether I could get him involved with doing this sort of webinar with us. And he said he just couldn't commit because he doesn't know what's going to be happening next with all the demands being made on his job. So they've been working hard with making sure people have access to food while their city's erupting right now with the protests and now with the rioting, that people's access to the regular grocery stores are changing up. So it's going to be the human service workers that are going to be making sure that people are going to still have access to just basic needs. And we're going to see that in our local cities now. Hopefully not with the violence, but with the demands for just basic needs. So we're going to be right there, needed more than ever. The third point then that was on this slide with the students' questions is just, I think, kind of a statement that I want to say that I'm going to be here for you to help you with this, so that there's fears to just stay up with a class. So taking a summer class, we move quickly. There's a lot of things that will be coming in different forms of communication. So I'll be sending these out by emails. I do some text to help remind and help people. And you're going to be able to get organized and stay up with it. I'm here as one of your resources to help you with that. You're also going to become your own expert on how you're going to use those tools to take it step by step to keep growing and learning through this class. So I recognize that it can sometimes feel overwhelming when we get started, and I keep that in mind with how we've kept this course designed. Going to check in with the next questions. Again, great questions. What would you say is most important trait for someone should have to work in human services? We dive into this in one of our early modules. I think it is in our second module. So you're going to have an article and some things that I'm going to also pose to you to start asking this question. I can list a whole bunch of traits, and sometimes I may emphasize a different one over others. We need good communication. We need good empathy. We need to be able to be confident to think and help people in a crisis. But when it came down, if I was going to narrow it down to one, I think I would look at needing to be passionate about helping. That there's something that's going to keep us going through and problem solving if we're passionate about what we're doing. So we need to care about what we're doing, and then when we don't have a skill or we aren't quite sure how to, we're passionate enough to make sure we ask the right questions. Second question here: what advice do you have? What advice do you have for what to do when you become burnt out? Wow, this is so such a great question. This is one that does come up for us in human services when we are taking care of others who are vulnerable and in need of help, that we also need to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. And we'll talk a lot. We'll start talking in this class, and we'll talk about it in some of your additional classes about where you fit in self-care. So I think one of my advice is to know how important self-care is, so that you're going to be doing the things of eating healthy, sleeping enough, being able to use relaxation techniques, being able to do the things that you're going to be strong, so when others are in need of you, you'll be there. I also think it's important to recognize if you're in a specific setting that you aren't able to be fully there, that you've hit that point that we'll describe as burnout, that you look at what are the skills that brought you to that position and where can you transfer those, and be exploring your options also. That sometimes if it's, that you've been able to be very attentive to working with the details of youth who may be aggressive or violent, but that has gotten extra challenging possibly those same attentive skills. You could be working with someone who needs supports and has an intellectual and developmental disability. And I say that from experience, that I've taken different turns in my own personal career to work with different populations or be able to shift settings when I was getting to points that I was no longer as helpful as I wanted or should be for the persons I was working with. Okay. Oops, skipped right. Let me I skipped down too many. All right, we had questions about the computer skills for using this class and about using this virtual session. I want to just point out and just show in general some places. Technology sometimes works, and sometimes we gotta work harder to make it work. I am going to take us in and have us look at our course. So I'm going to be sharing my screen. So it'll look a little bit different, but I want to go into our class. All right, so I'm sharing a screen and I'm going to go over here where our modules are. Oh, there's our announcements, and we have our buttons along here on the left side. We have this section right here for technical support. I'm going to highlight that that's going to be a good resource for when something is not working. And there's 3 different buttons there. One of them's a place that 24/7 you can get a live person to be typing in with. Blackboard tutorials are going to be videos that you can self-select which ones might show you how something works. And then there's our IT Support Center, which you can also go into and have live chat or a phone number, or you can also walk in. So we are using that now on campus, that you can go have a walk-in center for taking in your own computer if something's not working. I recommend, and some of your first study sheets will have you making notes of these, that you have this number as a resource for you to reach out to and problem solve. I'm going to be one of your resources. I'm going to go back to our slides now. I'll be one of your resources, but sometimes you may be needing someone faster than I will be on for helping, and sometimes you may need someone with a different type of expertise than myself. So my answer is going to be, how are you going to solve with the computers, is to think like a human services professional and problem solve. Use those resources and don't give up. Keep checking in. And for myself or any of your instructors, if you're hitting obstacles, certainly keep us posted. Sometimes we may have the solution. Sometimes we may just know that we need to keep reaching back out to you or give you another resource for solving it. My expertise is in human services. I know how to use some technology, but sometimes I also need to call on those experts. So I may not be always the answer for you with that, but I will work with you so we can get you the right answers. All right. Next questions were about our exams being timed. The exams are kind of unique in this class. Yes, they'll be timed. I want to show you something that I opened up. So let's actually, I'm going to go back to the screen here and show you something I've done to get you started on understanding what exams are. Exams sometimes scare us as students, and I want to see if I can minimize that a little bit. I have a folder now for exam 1. You're not going to use this till a few weeks in June. We'll have it for a whole week in June, that this is our first exam. We'll have a second exam then that will be at the end of the class, and you'll need to get it completed by June 25th. So you'll have a week to schedule yourself. Here is how our exams will work in this class. There'll be multiple choice or true false. Not only is it open book, open study sheets, I'm expecting you to use those. So you've got your book, you've got your study sheet. You're going to be able to work on your exam and take it 3 times. So if you go through it once and you're like, whoa, something didn't work right for that, instead of feeling bad or panicking, just go back and you'll get a second attempt. And not only that, you're going to get a third attempt. Now, when you open it, it will set for a timer for 60 minutes. I extend that if you've been given any accommodations through the Disability Services Center and you've been approved for that, they'll send me the information and I will set your exam for whatever accommodations you've been set for. So if you're time and a half, you get more time than that. But otherwise, it'll be for 60 minutes. There'll be true, false, multiple choice. You'll click OK at the bottom and you'll get 20 random questions. So if you take it a second time, there'll be 20 questions about the same topics from Module 1, 2, 3, and 4, but they won't be exactly the same questions. It's from a pool of questions. I only will have your highest score recorded, so you can take it again with no risk. If you take it, one time and your next score is lower, it's not going to count against you. So a lot of reasons to go for 3 rounds with that. All right, let's go back to our questions. That's where we are with exams. What part of this course do students find more difficult? And then second part of that, how do they stay focused to get a good grade on that section? Historically, the feedback I've gotten from students of the part that they feel most challenged with is the assignments that have the words APA in it. And we've since then have broken this down. Oh, I got a question happening. So I'm going to check in with you, Treva. Do you want to turn your mic on to ask me that?
I didn't mean to turn it on. I was just trying to put you back on my screen.
Okay, but you can still hear me. Okay.
Okay, I can still hear you.
Okay, excellent. So I'm going to be talking. And I think I'm getting a bit of echo from your. Okay, good deal. So part that students will tell me that they're most uncomfortable with, and I think it's the one that they get the most fear about, is one of the early ones that's going to be coming up. It's called our APA template. I'm going to have a whole nother session like this of questions and engagement event about APA. So hopefully that will help with the staying focused and getting a good grade. I also have set up that assignment that you have 2 rounds of it. You have a first draft and a second draft. And I'm going to pull up right now our syllabus so we can look at where this is showing up. So on our schedule, the one I'm talking about is our mini APA template. And this, we're going to have the first part due on June 11th. Key things about knowing about the first part is if you make an attempt with every step that's on there, just an attempt, I don't care if right or wrong, you're going to get credit for it. So students are able to get 100% on that first part by just going down the checklist or just going down the directions list. So that's my first tip for staying focused with that part of it. Then this assignment has the second part. So this one's due July 2nd. And what you're going to be doing at that part is you'll be waiting till I've graded your first part, because in addition to grading it and probably giving you a high score on that, because hopefully you've attempted all the steps, I will be giving you feedback on which parts you got right and which parts you need more assistance with. I'll give you some tools that you can use to make those corrections. You'll also try out working with a tutor, and you'll have choices whether you'll be using an online tutor or if we'll have our resources on campus at that point that you may be able to use a face-to-face tutor. But you'll try asking someone about that. You'll also going to have back up here, we're going to have a whole engagement session that I'll be answering some questions. So you're going to have a variety of tools. The other part I'll underscore for this assignment, while it says the word APA, it is not a research paper. We are just practicing setting up a paper, and we're just practicing how to set things up for citation. So we're not writing about any topic for this one. So I'm answering the question there was which thing the students find the most challenging. Because it involves that topic of APA and it involves writing something that resembles a research paper, it's the one that I get the most feedback that students feel outside their comfort zone the most. But we've done a lot of things with designing that assignment to make it feel like it is broken down into doable steps. All right, so I'm going to go back on some of these questions. We talked about these with the exams, what part is going. And then a student was sharing a lot about their questions and concerns about APA. And I'm hoping what I just talked about will frame that of understanding how we use that, or we'll be exploring that in this course. And then I'm going to use this to show you something inside the course that I've just opened up. And it's our next engagement session. And I encourage you to take part in this one. So if you're watching this from a recording or if you're here live, to think about being able to also participate in what's going to be coming up for next Tuesday. So very similar to what we're doing right now, but it's our second one. So we'll have a discussion forum where you'll list your questions. We'll do a live session like we're doing right now. And you'll go in, and for this one, I want to hear from you about your fears about writing college papers, your fears about using APA, what doesn't make sense, what scares you, what you've gotten stuck on, what you don't know. So all these things I've listed right down here. You post those questions for me on the discussion board, and we'll have an opportunity to do a session like this. That will hopefully be a great launch for making this feel like a more comfortable topic and a more understandable of what you'll be doing in the framework of this class. We will also have in our second module, so this is what's due next Tuesday, you're going to have things in your course pack and some steps that you'll be practicing and making a study sheet for yourself on these topics. Inside here, I want to just point out, if anyone from Module 2 has not been able to get hold of the textbook, I've got a link right in here that I've copied those pages, and please, please, please reach out to me if you're having any trouble with that or getting access to the textbook. I'm working hard to problem solve with a variety of directions with that, but just to let you know that there's a good starting spot if you're struggling with getting what you need from the textbook. All right, so I'm going to head on back to our questions here. All right. All right, so going to our questions. These have been some great questions. I'm really pleased with what you guys are thinking about here just as we're getting started. Question was about how difficult this course is. I'd put this one in the range of of doable, so that students have found success in this class by being able to complete each of the steps. Um, this class differs from an English class where we do have some projects in writing, but a different type of approach to that. So I think simpler than some students have felt, or more doable than they may have with some English classes. It does not have the same level of memorization that is needed for, say, a psychology class. So I like to underscore I think this class is a doable class. We already talked about some entry-level jobs for human services providers, so I'm going to move to the next one. What's the time turnaround for responding to someone, to a professor when you email, call, or text? This is going to be up to that individual. We, as a college, like to look at that during the weekday, that we're going to be able to be available on a 24-hour turnaround. So that's a Monday through Friday. So if you put something out there, say on a Friday afternoon, you might be waiting till Monday. If you put something out there late in the evening, and maybe the next afternoon that you're getting it. If you've not heard back from an email or call like that in 48 hours during a weekday, especially during a summer class, I encourage you to look at reaching back out to them again. Sometimes our emails may get lost. Sometimes we may think that we have responded or not. So just a nudge again if you've not heard back after 48 hours. All right. And then I realized one of my slides I may have skipped over, so I wanted to make sure I checked in with these questions. Everyday life skills that you're going to take away from this course. With this being an introductory course, I think you're going to have opportunity to really be practicing time management, which is going to be a skill you'll take as a professional anywhere. You're going to be able to be practicing some self-monitoring. This class builds in that you'll be working on study sheets and then reporting back what you've done with those. So there's a level of integrity, there's a level of self-monitoring and self-responsibility with some of the design with this course. You're also going to have opportunity to do some career exploring and some self-awareness exploring that will definitely be able to launch with any career that you're heading into. Advice for the real world. What would I give to a current college student with any advice for the real world, and why? I would really encourage college students to look at how you learn, and look at your self-awareness of being responsible for your own mindset for growing. The world is rapidly evolving and changing and going into some crazy space, and taking each of us a responsibility for, there's a lot of fears. I know I've got some fears going on, how we're going to, each of us in our own way, choose to install hope instead of fear, and taking on each of our own mindsets of what we're going to do to be empowering others, instilling hope in ourselves, in each other. I think those are going to be some things I'd encourage any college student. Questions about what brought me to human services. I think it's the opportunity to, I strengthen myself as I strengthen others, or I look that I become empowered when I empower others. So there's a give and take interconnectedness that I think has kept me engaged with human services. So that would be my answer to that one. The question 4 is, in my opinion, what's been the hardest part about teaching this course? I think that it changes with each group of students, so that there's a tendency sometimes as a teacher that when you've taught a class before that you feel that, well, I understand how to teach this class again, but that each semester, each group of students, that I stay open and responsive. So being able to keep doing that. Um, Number 5 tips I have for staying organized with this class. I really encourage students to block out your time and to commit to, for a summer session, 10 hours a week. If you're going to be cutting back on that, don't cut too far back. Staying committed to blocking out time a couple days before assignments are due. When you block out extra time, then it's a gift when you get that. It's easier to have too much time than too little time to be getting done with assignments. Number 6 on this, best advice I've been given for teaching this class. That was a great question. I think some of the best advice I've been given is to stay flexible, to be able to keep watching what students is working for students and paying attention. So it's kind of the abstract that as an instructor, I try to keep staying available for listening through what I'm observing is working for students and observing what's not working, so I can stay flexible and keep helping you move forward with those objectives. So those are my answers with that one. I think that got us to the end of our question list then. So I'm going to pause there. And for those who are participating live, to let you know, for this engagement activities, you've posted questions. So you did part 1 and you've joined in this session. So you have credit for this engagement event. Those of you who are listening to this as a recorded event, so that I know that you have been taking part in this, I have a couple posted questions for you to respond, post your answers, and then you'll get credit for being part of this event. But if you're here live, this is a chance for you to ask any clarifying questions or anything else that came to mind. So feel free to turn your mics back on or to type in. So go ahead, Trita.
Excuse me. Hello, Zoom? The question can you hear me? The question I need to ask you is, what is due tonight? I see on my syllabus, I'm looking at I did the course entry assignment and the connection assignment. So this kickoff is the engagement assignment. Is it also this what it is being live?
So nothing else due tonight. I'm going to pull up our schedule. I did send out some emails, and then I changed up on that.
Okay.
I got confused.
Okay, because I see. Okay, because I got June the 2nd, June the 4th, Module 1. Okay, so that's what's due. Okay, thank you.
Yep. So here's the schedule. I don't see it well in this. June 2 is our engagement. So that's all that was happening today.
Okay.
And then Thursday is when Module 1.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, thank you. I like this.
You bet. All right. Any other questions? Jessica?
Hi, I had a question about what's going to be turned in on Thursday.
Sure. All right. So Thursday is Module 1.
Correct.
What you'll turn in for our individual modules, and let me do this one by going to Blackboard. I think that will be the smoothest way. All right, so you should be able to see our screen and our Blackboard show. I'm going to go under coursework and module 1. I've listed here what the assignments are, but clarified that the study sheet is not something you turn in. So when we open up the module, lots of music. Let's pull that down. Scrolling down, you'll complete the study sheet and you'll have that for your own files. So you can, if you have the means to print it out and handwrite it in, or many of us are just working from our computers, you have a copy that you can type into it, the answers. You will then use this checklist that you'll go in and you'll answer the question. So that is something that you, in a sense, submit. And what you're submitting is by completing the answers to that. You'll also up here answer the syllabus quiz. So those are the two things that you do that you communicate into Blackboard. Inside the checklist, you're going to be reporting your completion of the study sheet. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
So when you see the modules and you see an assignment that lists that a study sheet is part of that, you just are reporting versus trying to upload that.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. Excellent. Other question? All right, David, go ahead.
Okay.
Did you have a question, Trina?
Yes, I can't see you. I don't know yet, but okay, here goes my question. So, like on every Tuesday at 3, we have to turn this our computer on and have class like this on Tuesday and Thursday.
On Tuesday, we're going to have something like this. It'll be slightly different each week. And you need to participate 4 times.
Okay.
But if your schedule doesn't work to show up at 3 o'clock, you should come back and watch the recording.
Okay.
And you'll do that over the next day. So you'll have about 3 or 4 days to take part in the recording.
Okay. So I don't know if I download. This is so new to me, Lord have mercy. I don't know if I download the website you gave me, but would it always be where I could come and get to this section?
I will email a link.
Okay. Okay.
So that's what you use to get to it.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, because I don't want to be messing up, but this is so new to me. So
you're doing good. Got it.
Okay. That was the question I had. Thank you.
Okay, super. Any other questions? Jessica, do you have any others?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, I think you guys who were able to, with your schedule work, to join us here for the live event. Hopefully in upcoming weeks, this time will work for others to join us. But those of you who are watching this from a recording, I think I hopefully was able to answer the questions that you had posted on the discussion board, and along with some of those others, that this has been helpful. Just to remember again, if you're watching this from a recording, that I'll have a couple questions that you'll also answer for me that you'll post, and then I'll give you credit for taking part in this. If you have any other feedback, either from watching this on the recording or joining in live, please reach out to me. I'm looking forward to having something like this each week, that we have a chance to pause, clarify, and explore some of the topics that we're working with a little bit deeper. So next week, it's going to be about APA and just the nuances, the things that frustrate us than understanding some of the problem solving with that. But in later weeks, we'll explore careers and things related to working in human services also, and possibly may even have some guest speakers join us in this format. So looking forward to that too. All right. Well, with no further questions, we're going to go ahead and close out here. And please also know that in addition to reaching me in these live sessions, you can reach out by email, can reach out by the phone number that's on our syllabus, and it's also posted there in Blackboard that I, during the summer, am working hard to be available between 10 and 4 during the Monday through Friday. If that time just never works for you and you need access for questions in the evening, I also, with planning ahead, can make myself available in the evenings. So I'm looking forward to a good summer semester. Stay safe and sane and strong and all those things that we're all working on right now. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and sign. Okay, you guys take care.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Take